I was fortunate enough to take cooking classes from Isabel Alexandra when she was the executive chef at Citronelle in Santa Barbara, California. Isabel taught me this recipe for sweet potatoes that has become a traditional Thanksgiving dish. To make Isabel's delicious French sweet potatoes is pure witchcraft. You'll start with sweet potatoes, apples, orange juice, brown sugar, maple syrup, salt, nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger, and a stick of butter. You'll also need a large 3 to 4 quart flat bottom pan and a blender. Your first step is to peel your sweet potatoes and then cut them into slices. They'll go into a pan of cold water and go on the stove and cook until they're tender. I've also cut our 2 Granny Smith apples, peeled and chopped into chunks. They go into our water. And then all of our rings of sweet potatoes. You can use any kind of apple that you want to. I just happen to have Granny Smith, so I'll use my Granny Smith, but I've done them with a variety of different apples. Once your sweet potatoes are in, add a scant teaspoon of salt, and they go on the stove top and cook until they're fork tender. These will cook at a simmer boil, not too vigorously, for about 25 to 30 minutes. Our beautiful potato and apple mixture is now fork tender. They've been on a gentle boil for about 25 minutes, and it's time to drain them now. In the same 30 seconds over high flame to dry out the excess water that we used with white potatoes. Wait until you see the steam and you'll know they're done. Before I put these potatoes and apples through the blender, I want to kind of just mash them up all together. And then once they're in the blender, that's when witchcraft starts to happen. And you'll be the one deciding what you want to season them with and when you reach the flavor that's appealing to you. So before I start to blend these, I'm going to start with some of my magic ingredients. Nutmeg. You know, I love nutmeg, so that's always a popular ingredient. My cinnamon and ginger. It's about 1/4 teaspoon of ginger and about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I'm going to take about 2 ounces of orange juice. The butter will be the last thing that goes in, and I'm going to hold out my maple flavoring until I decide on if I want to add it or not. I'm going to have to take a spatula and kind of poke it around during the blending process. After tasting it, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. And now I'm going to start putting in pieces of butter. You want to do your butter while your mixture is still hot, so it'll melt the butter. And this will smooth it out to a beautiful consistency. Add the butter, it starts to liquefy and the whole mixture becomes much smoother and creamier, and it's just delicious. I just tasted it, and for me it's absolutely where I want it to be, so I'm not going to add any more brown sugar or maple to it. Now it's time to transfer it into a serving dish. Sweet potato and yam confusion. It's century old. They look alike, but they are from totally different plant families. In the end, what you have been calling a yam is most likely a sweet potato. My father, who disliked sweet potatoes, became a fan of Isabelle's French sweet potatoes. This delicious sweet potato dish with the flavors of apples, oranges, spices, made with lots of butter for a smooth and silky texture, has become a family Thanksgiving favorite.